Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and I'm here to do the last 10 books tag. This book tag I saw most recently over on Paper Faerie, which is Vanessa's channel, so I'll link that down below, and then I'll also link the original. Also, because I'm a fan of saying it and so are you guys, I'm not a monster, so I'll put the questions down below as well in case you want to do the tag. There seems to be a murder of crows outside my window, which is, you know, very intimidating because that collective noun is awesome. So if you hear that during the video, I can't control crows, can you? The first question is the last book you didn't finish, and for that one, my last one, because I looked on my spreadsheet, was The Body by Stephen King. This one was one of 2 different short stories I tried to read for the Books in the Freezer readathon, and yeah, I couldn't do it. And the reason behind that is because it starts out being a story about these kids who are going to go see a dead body in the woods. Okay, fair enough. You get a few chapters into it, which, let's just talk about short stories for a second. Short stories probably shouldn't have chapters, especially not like a lot of them. So in reality, I'm pretty sure that this would be considered a novella, at very least, because Stephen King, yeah. Anyway, you get to a point where the main character flashes forward to a short story he writes in college, and then it just info dumps the short story into the chapter, and I'm going, I don't need to know this. Like, all that we learn from this is he has a crappy relationship with his dad, and we already knew that, so why is this here? And it's there because nobody will edit Stephen King. That's why. Question number 2 is last book you reread, and that one is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Hilarious Signs. This one I reread during the last round of the Queer Lit Readathon. Originally I was going to be listening to a different audiobook that week, but I messed up my audiobook app and returned that book, so I needed a different one, and I was doing a reread anyway. So I picked out Ari and Dante because this tale is delightful. I understand that some people are like, it's too optimistic. The parents wouldn't have been that kind back in the 1980s, but you have to think that some of them would have been, and we need some optimistic stories, so I'm fine with it. Number 3 is the last book you bought, and I'm pretty sure the last book that I physically purchased for myself was Alice Isn't Dead by Joseph Fink. This naked hardback, by the way, absolutely beautiful, and I always love to show off that I still have receipts in there. I love to show off the end papers on these books because they're gorgeous. The art is just beautiful. Also, just a side note that even though I didn't think I'd see Joseph Fink personally at PodCon, I knew I'd see him on panels or what for, I did run into him in a hallway at PodCon and got to tell him that I really liked Alice Isn't Dead as a book. I really enjoyed the writing format. I really enjoyed how it wasn't just a transcript of the podcast into book format, and how it was beautifully written, and that's all I really wanted from him. I just said something to the effect of, Joseph, I just wanted to let you that I really liked Alice Isn't Dead as a novel. I thought it was beautifully written, and he said thank you, and we went our separate ways, because I know bro has anxiety and I did not want to bug him further than being like, I liked your thing. Number 4 is the last book you said you read but you didn't, and this harkens back to, I believe, when I was 16 or 17 years old, and I had to do a book report on choose a book from this list, and I decided to choose the longest book because I liked a challenge, but I only read 50 pages of it because it was boring AF, and that book was Clarissa, History of a Young Girl by Samuel Richardson. This is a novel written back and forth in letters, and as we all know by now, I'm not a fan of classics, and this was published in the 1700s, and I just was not getting on with it, and I definitely read either the Sparks Notes or the Cliff Notes, or if Wikipedia existed when I was in high school, I'm not entirely sure it did because I'm old. I read that and gave my book report based on the first 50 pages I read and what I was able to scrounge up about it, and I'm pretty sure I got an A. The only other time I did this in school was for Lord of the Flies because that book was boring, there's no ladies in it, and somewhat unfortunately I have to actually reread that book next month for Valentines, so we'll see how that goes. Number 5 is the last book you wrote in the margins of, and I don't write in the margins of my books, no shade to anyone who does, but a little while ago my friend Shelley sent around a traveling copy of Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, so I definitely wrote in the margins of that because that was the whole point of the project. I was actually the first one to receive it, so it only had her writing in the margins, and then I answered some of her questions and put my own marginalia, and this was actually great because I started rereading it, because this was obviously a reread for me, in the Atlanta airport, and realized that the book is actually set just outside of Atlanta, so I was like, I'm really close to where this is happening. I was very excited. I also have a video about that project, so I'll link that in places. Number 6 is the last book you got signed, and this one has a little bit of a weird story to it. So at PodCon there are meet and greets and creator chats that are done by a lottery system, and I managed to get a meet and greet with Hank Green. These are kind of like signing lines basically, and I thought to myself, well, I should bring something for him to sign. And obviously I had a copy of An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which was one of the best books I read last year. It's definitely one of my 5-star reads from last year, but this was already a signed copy, so I thought it was kind of weird to bring an already signed copy to have somebody sign, but I did it anyway. Anything else I have from Hank Green, I figured it was already signed because it's not the first time I've ever met him. However, a couple of years ago I had the option of asking him a very important question to me or getting him to sign something for me at the volunteer party at VidCon 2016, and I decided to ask the question, hey, are you still writing that April-May book? Because I've read the early chapters and I really need to read it. And he said yes. So that was important to me, obviously. The thing that he could have been signing, though, was this Wizard School card. It's a player card, so when you play Wizard School you get to play a character, and there's a special rule on here that says if this card is signed by Hank Green, you use the panic action once on your turn for free, so that has to do with gameplay. So not only did I ask Hank to Hanklerfish the book that he had already signed previously, I got him to sign this card. Now I actually have 2 of these. And of course, because of the way my brain works, if I'm only given 15 to 30 seconds to interact with a human, my brain just blanks on all of the possibly interesting things I could say, such as, I asked you about this book back in 2016 and you said you were still writing it and that made me very happy, or the fact that I wrote a song based on Asio Deathly Hallows about your book and maybe you could see the video sometime. John thought it was great. Nope, didn't say anything because my brain. It's not even like I was fanning over him because I've met him before. I just am not very good at just being like, oh, you've already had 80 of these interactions and I kind of feel sorry for you because I'm an introvert, so that would really wear me down. So I don't want to put undue brain power onto you. Number 7 is the last book you lost, and to my knowledge I have never personally lost a book. But the last time I lent out a book and didn't give it back was approximately a decade ago. I was living in Scotland and I had a copy of Wicked and I lent it to my friend Liam, who is going off to Morocco for a week or a weekend or a little vacation anyway, and took my book with him, left it in the hot Moroccan sunshine, and funnily enough, given it was Wicked, the spine melted. Like the glue that keeps the paper together melted, and I, in hindsight, think that's very funny because Wicked Witch, my book melted. I never got that book back, and I never got a replacement copy. I just have this story. Number 8 is the last book you had to replace, and I think this means like you've read it so many times that your copy is dead, or like your dog ate it in the case of Vanessa, or something like that. I don't think I have an answer for this one, although I do have a book that unfortunately recently I had to buy from the library because my tea opened up in my bag, and yeah, it's super water damaged and disgusting, but now I own it, so that's good. So, you know, that was kind of my worst day because it's like a $36 book and I had to buy it from my place of work because my tea opened up in my bag. It was also because I was sick that day and that's why I had tea in the first place, and I just really shouldn't have been there. And basically paying for this book was approximately the same amount of money I earned by being at that shift, so, you know, that made me feel really good. But now I own a very water-damaged copy of Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which is a fantastic vampire novel. So I own this. It's very sad looking, but it's mine now. Number 9 is the last book you had an argument over, and I honestly can't think of one. And the thing is, it's because I spend most of my time just being really excited about books with people, and I don't really spend a lot of time being like, no, this book was terrible, or how dare you think this book was terrible, because people have differing opinions. The last time I got worked up about something book adjacent was the last time somebody mentioned The Dark Tower, because that movie was not that book and it made me really upset, and I have to pretend it didn't happen, which is what I say every time it comes up. If you're interested as to why, I will link that video in places as well. And number 10 is the last book you couldn't get a hold of. Now, I can generally get a hold of pretty much any book I want. Almost. It usually just takes a while because I use my library all the time, and if they don't have it, I can ask them to buy it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and I could go so far as to do an interlibrary loan, which means I could get it from a different library and they would bring it to my library. If there are books that I really can't get a hold of, I put them on my wish list, which is linked down below. But more often than not, the books on that list are actually just books that aren't even out yet, and that's why I can't get them. Although I will say the most recent book that I tried to pre-order directly from the publisher and couldn't because they said they don't ship to British Columbia is Collateral Damage by Taylor Simonds. Firstly, look at how beautiful this cover is. Secondly, I am so excited to read this debut novel by my friend Taylor. It is going to be amazing. I'm constantly just fighting myself to not bombard Taylor with requests for an ARC because I know that she knows I want one, so if she's able to send me one, she will, but I just want it. And the publisher's website still says that I can't pre-order it, so either I'm going to have to pre-order from Amazon or something is going to happen. I'm gonna go into a bookstore. I'm gonna go into a real bookstore and pre-order it, I think. And that is the last 10 books tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. The questions, like I said, are already down below. Have you read any of the books I mentioned in this video? If so, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!